No, that's awesome.
He's like, we grew a little. I was like, you did?
There was 3 people.
Yeah, he was like, yeah. And Brian was one of them and you were the other one.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I appreciate you guys having me. Some of you know who I am or no? Seen some stuff online? I mean, okay, cool. So I'll give you some of my background if you don't know it. And that'll be the least humble part of the night. Other than that, I'll be as humble as I can. So I got into business about 10 years ago. I know I'm wearing some fancy clothes because I did an interview earlier today with a gentleman, and he wears a nicer suit than I have. So I'm usually in a hoodie, I'm usually like JP, but today I just rolled down. So yeah. Oh, so the hoodies. Oh, here. Okay, I'll get into that. I'll get everybody in your hoodies. But so anyway, so about 10 years ago, I got in the business. The world was ending, right? 2008. Everybody said get away from real estate. I'm like, hey, this real estate thing sounds great. I don't want to make, I'm making like 50 grand just fresh out of school, which is great, but that wasn't going to change my life. And so I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, like probably everybody in this room has. And I saw the clause in there that said, hey, Robert Kiyosaki made like 40 grand at an assignment fee in Arizona or something. I was like, I need to know what that is and how to do that. So I went online. I was like, back then the forums were just starting, Bigger Pockets, Flipping Homes, like they were just brand new. And I figured out what wholesaling was. And this is still, I mean, literally, I remember when Bear Stearns went out of business, and so I'm hearing this stuff on the news, but I'm not really correlating it to how damaging that was to people in the industry. Pretty sure if I had money at that time and I wasn't fresh out of school, I would have lost it like everybody else. So I'm definitely no hero, and my timing was probably pretty good in terms of getting into business. But I didn't have any money, so I had to wholesale. Well, I ended up understanding that wholesaling was simply, does everybody not know what wholesaling is? I can give a quick explanation, or does everybody know what wholesaling is? Pretty familiar with it? Yes? Okay. So we were wholesaling, and what's that?
Buy low, sell high.
Buy low, sell high, the contract. So you're actually, for your attorneys in here, you know this, that you're assigning, you have the rights to assign the contract. You're not actually selling the real estate. So I wasn't an agent, I didn't have to be, because I was selling the rights to the contract. Well, I also found out that you can make a whole lot of money doing that. So I had a partner in Philadelphia, and we ended up realizing this isn't really about real estate. So everybody in here, in this room that thinks they're in here for real estate, you're actually not in real estate. So if you still think you're in real estate, you haven't hit the next level, which is you're actually in the business of marketing. So, and I know there's a couple of people that came down here tonight that I've done business with over the years. Brian, JP, Dane, and they're all really good at what they do, at executing, because of a few things that I'm sure they would verify at this point too. They have all the knowledge in the world that they need to do a good deal, to flip a house, to wholesale, to sell a house. It really didn't matter what line of work we all chose. We all became pretty good at 2 things: marketing and consistency. We are the most consistent marketers you're going to find in this game. And me and Brian were just talking about this before at the door. We were saying that is where everybody falls short. So if you're trying to get your business to the next level with your wholesaling, lending, whatever it is, I built a few businesses that I'll talk about along the way. All of them were done the same way, and it was not magic. I am not the smartest guy in the room. I would debate, though, whether I'm the hardest working, most consistent guy in this room. Every day, I am there to do the exact same thing and monitor my results in a marketing capacity. I don't really care about real estate. We're all here for one thing, right? Not real estate, not even marketing. We're here for money. And if you're not here for money, go somewhere else and go find a hobby that's less expensive and less risky. Because this business is, anybody ever do a bad deal? I'll put my hand up if you've done a bad deal. Yeah, that hurts, that sucks. It's the worst part of this business to be in. So protect your money first, always, in this business, and hopefully you never get hurt in it, but understand very clearly that it's not about the rush of the deal. It's not about going to the sheriff's sale and buying a house above what you should have paid. It is about making money and being patient. So with that said, as I mentioned, there's some real, and I'm sure there's other people in this room that operate fantastic businesses that I don't know, but just the people that I kind of mentioned just now all have something in common. And they're all top performers. You know, a lot of you guys in here probably know Brian. Top performer down here. Why? And he'll tell you. He's consistent, and he stays on his marketing. Dane, I mean, the guy's got fantastic lead flow from what he does. Like, you know, JP, he is all about consistency. We're just talking about building a property management scenario that he was asking about, and you know, he is driven by systems, consistency, and just showing up, and why he does this every day. So I would say, as we get going in this, check if you are not where you want to be in your real estate business right now, ask yourself how consistent you are in your marketing capacity and what you do every day and day in and day out. If every day is not focused on this business, and that's okay if you want to be a part-time investor, or it's okay if you don't want to go to the next level, but if you think you want to get to the next level, that is how you do it. So myself, I'll back up a little. Myself and my partner realized we weren't actually in the business of real estate. We learned in 3 months how to wholesale a deal, how to put a contract together, go to a house. So we said, let's get marketing. Before you know, we were spending like 30 or 40 grand a month back then in mailers, and actually, I'll give you guys some really good marketing tips if you want that. And there's no magic, but I can give you some really good ones.
No, just give it to me.
Yeah, I'll give it to everybody because only 1 or 2 people will ever take the chance of implementing some of this, so it doesn't matter. But the best source I ever had of marketing, by far, also the hardest, was canvassing. Canvassing door to door. We had a team that would run in the city in Philadelphia, and 5 nights a week, 4 or 5 guys from a halfway house would go out with 1 team manager. And I mean, it was tough to get those leads, but there was no comparison to the amount of lead flow that we got off of canvassing. Mailers were always a staple, bandit signs, all that kind of stuff was always a staple. But so anyway, so what happened was we progressed, and I realized that was me learning how to build a business, a wholesale business. A couple hundred deals a year, that was a lot of deals. There was like 150 to 200, it was a lot of deals. Back then it was easily the biggest in the city. But I also learned what it was like to balance cash flow, have a $30,000 or $40,000 a month nut in marketing, payroll, and then I also learned what it's like to have a couple bad months. You know, any realtors in here go, oh, I'm having the greatest month of my life, and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, you can't close a deal, and you're going, I got to live off what I made back in January to figure out how to get through the next 2 months. I learned what that was all about in wholesaling. So to study that out, we decided, hey, we're going to build a property management company. Sounds easy, collect some rent, do this. Turns out it is the hardest part and the least sexy part of all of real estate to do that. But I made a commitment to people, and I was stubborn, and myself and my partner said we're going to do it, and we ended up growing a company up to about 600 or 700 units under management. That took a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to be a good property manager, and then we had sold it to a company in Philadelphia called TCS, and I stayed on with them in an executive capacity for a while and helped them grow that to about 3,000 units. So if anybody really wants to know about property management and what you should and shouldn't do, I'd be happy to tell you. I'd also be happy to tell you that if I look back 10 years and said I was going to do it again, that would be the one thing I would not have done. I think the results that it gave me in my life and what I could understand were good in terms of like where I ended up and like the people I got to know. But actually going through the motions of building a property management company, I mean, you got to have a real stomach for any. And it's true. I mean, I've been threatened to be kidnapped. I've had people come in my office with guns. Yeah, it doesn't look. I mean, I'm not tough, but I can talk my way out about anything. So I do have that talent. So you know, I had all that happen, and you know, you get really numb to some of the stuff that happens in this business. In a good way and a bad way, I think you kind of lose a little bit of humanity too, because you realize that you're dealing with people in their homes at times, and but you've seen hundreds and hundreds of the situations. People lie to you, or you know, drug houses. I've seen all that stuff. So there's a lot easier ways to make money in this business in any other capacity than being a property manager. But if you want to go down that road, I can talk to you about it. So I sold that business, and I said, what am I going to do? You know, I'm still in real estate. I had 2 silent partners in Maryland that were building this fantastic hard money company, and I said, look, I always tell people this too. Wholesaling teaches you a lot about your marketplace. So people underestimate wholesaling. I don't want to wholesale, I want to flip. Flipping's for big boys. Wholesaling's not. Wholesaling, I know wholesalers right now making $700,000, $800,000 a month in our marketplace. That's a big boy number. So it's a great place to be in terms of understanding how to build this business, and then understanding also what a good deal looks like. That's what that ended up teaching me. So then what I didn't realize 10 years later, after we built a management company and so forth, I was like, and we said, hey, let's get this money deployed into Philadelphia, Jersey, Delaware. I didn't even think twice. I was like, I know what a good deal looks like. So when somebody comes to me, I've done thousands of deals at this point. You know, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, this is a good deal, I can say to you, no, it's not. I'm not deploying money against that. It became very easily because of my background in wholesaling. So I would not tell anybody to underestimate the value of wholesaling and doing a lot of it. You make a lot of money, it's low risk, you're good at it, you'll sell a lot of deals, and you'll learn how the big players stay in business. because that was back in 2008 the only people I could sell to. It was not people coming in out of state with their IRAs totally paying for property. That's not what was happening. This was sharks that have been sitting on the sidelines that own 600-700 properties themselves for the past 20 years, were waiting for the market to cool off for that moment. And then they were like, cool, give me everything we got, but I'm only paying this much. And I was like, wait, the guy that just came from California that wanted to buy was going to pay twice that. They're like, yeah, go talk to him because he's out of money. Because nobody had money in 2008. So you're paying my prices now. And I was like, okay, now I've got to learn really what a good deal was. Well, 10 years later, I'm in a position where I cannot, people come to me for money for their properties. I can tell right away if we're getting into a bad deal. I know when the deal's overpaid for. I know the market conditions. I understand how to run comps. All that's very important. So it didn't really matter which avenue I chose in terms of the business. I built each business the same way, and it was through marketing and consistency. So if there's one takeaway, I always do these presentations for multiple reasons. One, marketing. Two is I really do hope that some of the information I give tonight can either help propel somebody's business or what they're trying to achieve in their goals, keep somebody out of a bad deal and not lose money. So I guess one of the main reasons you guys came tonight was, and I can talk about anything you want in terms of, well, at least in that circle of what I've done. And if I don't know something, I'll just say, hey, I don't know it. But you guys wanted to know how to get money. Is that really why everybody came? Or do you guys want to know, you really should be asking me, how do you generate leads? That should be the question everybody should ask. But I can tell you how to get money. Because money, when you have a real deal, money's not hard to find. If you're having trouble finding money, it's not hard. It's not hard to find. There's a million ways. Money's very easy to get in this market space right now. It's very easy to get in different capacities. But I'll talk from a private lending standpoint, or so I'm considered hard money, and me and JP were talking about this online, and there's different connotations with private money versus hard money versus bank money, and everybody gets, there's a whole lot of confusing things, I guess, for people to understand with that. So private money and hard money are similar. Private money is typically going to be, there's a couple people that raise their hand saying, hey, we're lending money. You're going to be likely, unless you are a business that deploys a lot of capital, you're likely a private lender. Most private lenders are typically in a position where they have $1 million or less to deploy onto the streets. You're usually going to be, if you're working with them in some capacity, it's probably you're their only individual they're likely working with, and you're going to tell about how much money they have by how hard they start to sweat when you do how many deals you do with them, because they're like, hey, you got 3 deals and all my money's on the street. They jump in and start micromanaging your transaction or something, So there's up and downs to private lenders versus maybe a hard money lender. Private lenders might be a little bit cheaper. They're also going to be, a hard money lender is going to have their docs and their processes and their understanding of the game much sharper than maybe a private lender would, because just through the sheer experience of the amount of deals they've done. So your private lenders aren't going to have the close, they're not going to be as experienced in the process. But you might get more flexible or favorable terms. They might put up all the money. So there's that factor of private money. So typically, private lenders might be a little more flexible than your hard money lenders. Then you have hard money, which would be considered what I guess considered. I like to say we're like hard money with a mom and pop shop feel. So anybody that's worked with us, I try to I try to make it as easy as I can. That's my goal, is to make it as easy as I can. If the deal is good, you get the money in your account. With that said, we're a little different because hard money comes in 2 different capacities. So there's no company, as far as I'm aware, in our space that's built like us. We're actually privately funded. That's why I can underwrite a deal and just tell you, hey, it's going to happen or it's not, versus most other hard money companies are actually institutionally funded. So why is this relevant to the conversation tonight? Because the way you approach one of us is different when you're trying to get money. So when you're privately funded, such as us, meaning we deploy as much money as an institutionally funded company. So we do about $40 million a year in deployment in our market space. That's what most hard money company will do as well. That's institutionally backed. The difference is we have friends, family, and partner money. That's what our funding source is. That's how we put the money on the streets, and therefore our underwriting process is determined by us. So I like the deal or I don't. I don't use appraisals. I can close in 24 hours. Might be even a couple of deals I've done down here in the Jersey Shore in 24 hours. So I don't know if anybody in this room has done one with me, but we can. We can close. Dan, have we done a deal in 24 hours? We have. Okay. So people are like, oh my gosh, how do you do a deal in 24 hours? I'm just like, because we underwrite I'll just tell you that day if we're doing the deal. It's a little different than an institutionally backed scenario. So the reason an institutionally backed funder is different than us is because what happened was interest rates went to a historical low after the crash, and banks decided to really get their feet wet in this market space because the spreads were so great. You charge 12 to 15% money, we get money at 3%. It still is a little, pretty sexy to banks. As those spreads creep up and the interest rates go up, you're going to see a lot of institutionally backed companies fall out. And they've already started to kind of fall out because the banks go, not sexy anymore, they yank the line, and that company no longer has any money. Fortunately, we took the longer road to build our company, and it's more bulletproof because we have individuals as opposed to a bank that's going to go, hey, we're taking the whole line and putting you out of business overnight. So the difference, though, too, is that when you approach a company like us, like it's just me. Like you're going to talk to me or one of my partners. We do the underwriting. That's it. Nothing fancy. Nothing crazy. Whereas if you go to a hard money lender that's institutionally backed, you're going to a bank. It's institutionally backed, meaning a bank put their money involved in that. So understand that when you're approaching for money and you're trying to get money, which type of funding source you're dealing with. It's extremely important. So if you come to me, I'm going to be looking at the deal differently than somebody with an institutionally backed. Most companies around here, 100% the out-of-state companies, are going to be your institutionally backed companies. There's a lot in-state that are also institutionally backed. So with them, you want to be prepared with your W-2s, your tax returns. You're going to have an appraisal. Closing in 24 hours, not possible. I've had a couple of them get mad at us for like, you can't do that. It's not possible. I'm like, we don't have the same funding as you do. We do. So you have to understand that when you approach them, they're more concerned, just like a bank, with the borrower. They want to know your 700 credit score, and they're going to say you can do 650 and this and that, but they're going to want you to look like a bank would want you to look. Which, in my personal opinion, private money and hard money, the whole reason you come to us is for speed and because you didn't want to walk into a bank. Like that was part of the reason you guys did this. When you're approaching a guy like me, and there's a couple, I think we're the largest privately funded, but there are other privately funded companies as well. We are more driven by what your awareness of the market space is. So I can tell very quickly, usually within a 30-second conversation. I prefer email, but within a 30-second conversation, if you said to me, this is the address, these are the construction numbers, and here's the price I'm trying to buy it for. You go, how can you tell my ability level by just those numbers? And I'm like, if your address is the addresses, right? I got that wrong. Closed on one today that I was like, I don't think that's the right address. Can somebody check that? And they were like, yeah, that wasn't the right address. So we didn't make sense of that. But the acquisition price, I can tell right away where you're going to be because it all starts with the ARV. Are you guys familiar with the ARV, after repair value? The potential value of the property and the real potential value, not the house next door. It's new construction, just sold for $400. If I put some new mirrors and a new vanity in his house, it's going to also sell for $400. Not that number. There's a big gap there. So I assess that in the MLS all the time. I'm determining what the real value is. So when you come to me and say, hey, I'm buying it at this price, we should be about 30 to 35% of the real ARV. That is going to be a good deal, likely. If you're above that, you're overpaying. So if you're overpaying, and I see that you're overpaying, I'm going to know right away the red flags are going off. So a guy like me that's not looking at your W-2s, I don't care what your W-2s, tax returns, you probably all made, lost 20 grand last year and half you made like $500,000, right? Because you're in the business of being an investor. So tax returns mean nothing to me. So I have to determine your awareness of your market space. And so right away I'm going to tell either you're going to be on point with me, we're going to have the same ARV, you're going to be too high, meaning you don't know your marketplace, you're going to be irresponsible with the money, or you're too low, which actually does happen sometimes, and it's a pleasant surprise. I'd rather you be low on your ARV to make your numbers work, because it means to me you either got really lucky hitting the same numbers as me, or you're also a conservative person. I'm conservative. Like I said early on, we protect money first, we make money second. I'm an underwriter. Every day the market's going to crash for me. Every day my borrowers something's going to happen that's bad. Right? I'm never thinking like, man, I can make 100 grand on that deal. Never. Not in my head. My head goes, how do I protect this? And then, we can make some money on it too. That's how we think. So if you're thinking that way as an investor too, I want to see that in that acquisition price. So let's say we hit the same page in the acquisition price. Now I know, all right, we're speaking the same language. You've got this at a good number. So my judge of character is starting to say, okay, execution-wise, I think you're in the ballpark. Now the construction numbers. How many people said there were contractors in here? How many contractors in here have ever renovated a house, top to bottom, for $15,000 to $20,000? Is it possible? Without your own legwork, like retail numbers, it's not possible. It is impossible to do that. So, and I'm laughing because I just did a presentation, last night, whatever. The guy had a $400,000 house, and he said it was 20 grand in work. I'm like, the front door is 20 grand. You cannot do that. So, but I'll know right away that when you put that number on that piece of paper, you're not being responsible with the money. You didn't have a contractor look at it, and what's going to happen if I take a deal with you and you're going to put 20 grand in and you're going to sell yourself short on the budget, I'm not giving you extra money. So we're going to run into a pretty bad standstill in the middle of that project. You go, oh no, I undershot this. I know that coming into this. You got to remember that my experience level in this is like a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot, $45,000 to $60,000 reno. I know that right away. So these numbers are what really speaks to me in terms of when you're approaching me for money. So if you're trying to get an understanding from a privately funded guy in terms of the money that you're going to be getting, is you want to be able to go right away and be like, hey, we're pretty close on the numbers. Because that's all we care about, right? So if you're close on the numbers, you're speaking the same language, and it's going to be a lot easier to get that money from a privately funded group than it is, a banker. The institutionally funded is going to be looking at your W-2s, but we are looking at your numbers. And then something else we consider pretty heavily, and we're watching, is character. So people are like, anybody can. I'm like, if you have enough conversations, you can tell. I can tell you probably who the most successful players in this room are. I only know 3 or 4 guys. I can probably tell you who the players are. I can tell you who's new, who's coming up. Like, you can just see it. So you learn people. You learn to read people in my business. So character is an issue, and ideally, if I'm going to do business with somebody and I'm going to give them the most aggressive number that I can on a deal, I want to confidently know that I can assure that these docs, or the docs that we're signing, are irrelevant. I want to know that I've shook your hand, and win, lose, or draw, you're giving me my money back. And I have to know that. That's really important. Now, if I don't get that sense or I don't get that feeling, it's okay. But what would you do? Like, what would somebody do if you didn't think I was going to pay you back? How would you? But you're still going to do business. What would you do? Take a step. Well, you can charge him more, but remember that violates rule number 1: protect the money. What?
Walk.
You can walk. I could walk, but let's say I'm going to do the deal. I'm going to do the deal. If I charge him more, that doesn't protect my money. What do I do?
No more skin in the game.
Bingo. I lower my risk, right? I don't. Let's say I've had guys that have reputations in the business. They made it through last cycle. They burned some people. Whatever. Bankruptcy. Okay, no problem. We're gonna add collateral to this picture. Everything you own, we're gonna tie up, and you needed 150 grand. I'm gonna drop that by 100 grand because I don't think you're giving me the money back, and you're gonna bring 100 grand skin in the game, as Brian said, to the table. So character will be the ultimate judge in the end to me of how risky I'm willing to get. So we all have kind of a maximum number that we go up to as lenders. It's typically 65% of the ARV is what you hear. It's a pretty familiar term, 65, 70%. We do that because we want to know that we can liquidate a property very quickly. We actually, contrary to popular belief, we do not want to own your property ever. I've taken back less homes than a bank. So I like to keep it that way. I'm in the business of lending, not keeping houses. Yeah, no. So it's very important to us that, so when you approach a private lender, that understand that if you're not going to be able to trick them because everybody's trying to sell us all day long. It's easier to be more direct. So if I ask you a question and you give me a story as opposed to an answer, I know all you're doing is trying to sell me something. Sell me on why your bankruptcy happened, or sell me on this, sell me on that. I don't want to hear it. I just want to know the answer. And you go, hey, I got a BK. No problem. Understood. You told me the deal, you told me what's going on. Those are the easier scenarios to deal with because the person's being transparent, upfront, and that's it. So I would recommend, I'm sure anybody calling is a very nice person, but I'd recommend keeping the conversation very short and direct because that's how you have an honest conversation with somebody. Somebody asks you a question, you give an answer, right? If you start telling a story or you start elaborating, it means you're trying to tell them something with yeast on it. You're trying to inflate it. You're trying to grow it. Why are you doing that? So all those things come into consideration when you're dealing with private lenders. So whether you're dealing with hard money, privately funded hard money, or you're dealing with an individual that's a private lender, even the private lenders, has anybody done any like private loans to somebody individually in real estate in this room? Just like, yeah. So, just JP. So like, these are considerations these guys have. Now these guys also have different experience. So JP has renovated, has wholesale. Like, so when you approach a guy like that, if you start to throw those fake numbers at him, he's going, no, it's not going to work, you know, because he knows. So you're going to have much more of a judge of character, much more a judge of the individual numbers are going to be more of a factor than it would be if you went to an institutionally financed company. Because likely if you went to an institutionally financed company, the person taking your money order, so to say, really doesn't know anything about the market. They're going to be dressed like this. They've never gotten their shoes dirty. They've never been inside a dirty house. They're simply out there to broker leads. And then you're going to be in a position where they are going to say yes, 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 up until you come down to the table. And then they're going to go, oh, I didn't realize we couldn't do that because your $20,000 budget wasn't good. And then I get a call to say you're dealing 24 hours. I get that all the time. You know, such and such fell out, they fixed tomorrow. So those are the things that you want to understand when you're approaching each kind of individual lender. Privately funded and private individuals are going to be more similar in the way they underwrite or the way they take a look at a deal. If you're ever wondering if you are dealing with one or the other, just figure out what they need. So if they say to you, like you're like, well, I don't know, Ian said, are they privately funded or are they bank funded? I want to go with private funded. You want to find out, hey, do you need my tax returns, do you need a bank statement, do you need W-2s? If the answer to any of that is yes, then you're dealing with a bank, institutionally funded company. If the answer to that is no, just give me the deal, you know, stop talking and give me the deal, then you're dealing with a privately funded situation. So that's a difference you want to know when you're approaching, because if you approach either of them separately, like if you send me W-2s and tax returns, you miss the boat. I don't care. You know, if you send the bank company the deal parameters, they're gonna nod their head and go, oh, great, sounds good. Wait for the appraisal. Well, you're like, wait, what? This is a great deal. Why am I waiting for an appraisal? If you're doing an appraisal, you're also bank funded. I don't do appraisals. I don't need appraisals. I don't care what an appraiser says. A bank funded company, they don't know the marketplace. They're not investors first, so they're going to have to use an appraisal to verify their numbers. So you want to know that when you're approaching. And then when you're approaching a private individual, understand that they're going to be in a position many times where you're probably liquidating the majority of their bank account. So I always say, like, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. So understand how that makes somebody like that feel, and the tension that will cause potentially if everything doesn't go exactly right. So you're gonna have to be. It's a more fragile position. I don't want to say that because I do not underestimate any dollar that leaves the account from our banks. Like I have a lot more experience with those dollars than like somebody that can maybe do 2 or 3 deals a year. So understand when you're approaching most privately funded people, it's okay. There's a fantastic space for private money, but it's going to be a more fragile situation. It's going to run a little different than privately backed funded hard money, and then that's also going to run differently than hard money, institutionally backed. So, any questions about what I've said so far? I know I talked uncomfortably fast at times.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
I don't know if you mentioned it because I can't too much background noise, but
Yeah.
what would be HMB's interest rates in like a new rehab?
So I don't really validate based on new or old. Like it might fluctuate a point or two based on like prior, but we don't do price wars. We don't get into that. It's a death trap in our business, because in a few years when those banks creep up and the companies that were trying to do price wars get squeezed, banks creep their money. These guys can't. They've been fighting with each other for so long. So anyway, so our money is typically going to run you between 13 and 14% annualized. And then you're going to see 3 to 4 points depending on who you are, that kind of stuff. You're going to find money on the street. I mean, I've heard as low as 9 and 1 people have tried to come out with. I have a lot of guys in South Jersey actually that, they're at like 12 and 2 with some other company. They're like, there's such a hassle to deal with. We'd rather just deal with you guys because it's just fast. It just go. So you got to decide the lender that you're working with, if it's going to be I always say, like, if you want to work with a lender that you have a relationship with, if you don't have a relationship with it, make sure that they are fast and the speed is important. Like, you know, a lender that says, hey, submit a draw schedule. A draw is typically when you complete work, you need your money to be reimbursed. And they go, cool, our process is you submit today and we'll be out in 3 weeks to look at it. You're like, 3 weeks? That's a whole other point I gotta pay. You know, you wanna have somebody that's out there within the week, reviewing the draw schedule within the day or so, and then getting that money to you as fast as possible. You want somebody that is gonna do their best to work with you in terms of like, you know, hey, instead of on this draw, I do the bathrooms instead of the kitchens. Can we move something around in the draw schedule? Sure, like, I want your hammer swinging because your hammer swinging means that house is getting to completion, means I'm getting my money back faster. I'm not gonna have an inspector that comes out that's gonna check something off and then look at your inspection 3 weeks later and all of a sudden we go, hey, you gotta resubmit the inspection and now we're 6 weeks out. Like, you don't wanna get into that at all. So you want ease is really important, we found, for most people to when you're comparing. But you know, I know guys and girls that have great relationships with guys, you know, banks, people that are cheaper than us, and that's okay too. I have people that use us for certain kinds of deals and other banks for certain kinds of deals, but you're gonna find most average money you bump into will be between like 12 and as high as 18%. 12 to 18% is typically what you see. And then from, call it 2 to 6 points is what I see. And I always say though, the most important thing to be is not actually the lender in terms of the cost, it's your speed of execution. If you sell a house in 5 or 6 months, sale to sale, from taking my money to selling it, that's like 10% money or so when it's said and done. No big deal, right? Does it matter at that point if it was 9 or 10%? No. What matters though is if you hold it for 12 months, and 12 months annualized at 14% plus some points, you screwed up somewhere, unfortunately. It's okay, we all mess up, but that's expensive. So if you're executing quickly and moving with our money fast and returning that money, it is extremely cost effective whether you're using me or a more expensive person or a cheaper person. It shouldn't really matter. You should be focused on your own ability to how fast can I get in and out of the house and sell it. And some of the top, you know, our top clients, they are fast, and then they don't care about paying because they're like, whatever, it's 6 or 7%. I've had some that average like 7% on our money, which is not easy. But they move so quickly. So your contractors have an edge. Your contractors in this room that move fast, you have an edge. Realtors that know how to move things, you have an edge. So like, you just want to move things quick and price them right. You don't want things sitting. Our money gets costly when it sits.
Are you 100% funded?
Like, will I give you no money down?
100% of the deal? Yeah.
No. Well, so 2 ways I will. One, if you have cross collateral, meaning if you own another property free and clear, I can offset my risk. If you bring that in, I can place a lien position against that free and clear piece. So let's say you were going to bring like 30 grand cash to close. I look and you go, oh, you got a nice, you know, other first position investment property over here that I can put in place. I can offset my risk, place a lien on it. You sell the house, we release both liens. I have a lot of investors that use like a piggy bank, so then you are no money down. In regards to like out of the gates, no other properties, I wouldn't do that because I don't know the person. What I do down the line sometimes do is we'll JV with somebody or joint venture where we put up all the money. But honestly, it's usually more expensive for the investor that was going to work with us. It creates liquidity for them for sure, but you know, it doesn't happen very often that we kind of get into that scenario. It's possible, but I like to have an established relationship before we do that because it's just like, you're just taking on a business partner. And if anybody here has had a business partner, it's like a marriage. And if you have a bad marriage, it's not good for anybody. So we try to like,
Typically, what the 70% of the ARV?
65, 70%. If I like the person, I like the deal, yeah, 70. If I don't like them, 50, you know. It's that casual, yeah.
Would the rules be the same for a rental? Do you do rental?
Yeah, so I'll do a rental. You got to refi out within 12 months. Our longest note and the longest hard money you're really going to bump into. There's some like pseudo hard money like stuff that you rent, but traditional hard money is 12 months or less. I want to know a little bit more about your credit at that point because I want to know that you can get out of this deal, and if you're ultimately getting out means to a bank. It's not like you're flipping it. So I'll know a little bit more about your bankability. The only other thing caveat with that is we only like to lend on properties that have in this market space. In North Jersey, we're like 150 ARV. Down here, we're 120 ARV. And then in Maryland, we're back down to like up to 150. So at 120 is the minimum ARV. you know, you get less rentals that are going to be in that range in terms of, because most people are, you know, hey, 60, 70, 80,000, those are your cash flow properties, and that's cool. Like, people making millions of dollars in that space. It's just not great for lenders, because if we ever had to deal with a property, what happens is we go to take it back, and you're not selling that house to a flipper that's going to flip it for an FHA number. The only guy coming in, no matter how nicely renovated that is, in a $70,000 or $80,000 area, is another investor that's going to want to buy it at $30,000. So your exit strategy is different as a lender. We like to be in areas where the FHA market is strong and the non-owner occupant level is low. Not because we don't like, you know, I spend a lot of time around landlording, so I get it. You make a lot of money at it too. Any other questions? Yes.
What are some ways that you guys do your market analysis to figure out the area that you're out?
It's me. It's experience. It's just, I mean, so these glasses, like they're not even like real glass. Like they're like blue light glasses. They sit in front of a computer screen all day long and run comps. like I have LASIK vision.
So you're based on mainly strictly comps, or are you looking at
100% comps.
growth? Or?
Yeah. So I'll just give you a quick rundown. So this is a very good skill set to have. In fact, this is really like a meeting that people I wish they'd invite me to do, because I'm like, I do thousands of these things. So you need to know how to market this business, and you need to damn well know how to comp. Really know how to comp. Meaning, because if you're going to put your money against something, you got to know what the value is. And I learned in 08, you know, back in 08, the market was tanking so fast that the longest comp we could use was 90 days. Anything outside of 90 days was a different value at that point. That was the speed of the crash of the market. It was crazy. Nowadays, you can go back a little further. January gave us a nice little scare. I think we've topped in 2017. I think that we were all going to look back and go, oh, that was a good run. 2017 was the end. Doesn't mean we're going to crash. It just means that, you know, you kind of level off. But you need to, I go back maybe like 6 months. I'll actually look 4 years. I go back 4 years to see the market trend, but I don't actually use the like a comp from 4 years ago. What I do though is I want to see, like, so I can see a bubble pretty well by going back like 4 years. I can see like everything here was selling like I'll use Philadelphia, certain areas of Philadelphia, that everything was selling in like, you know, Kensington for like 30 grand or 40 grand, and now they're selling for 300. That is either a bubble, or there's going to be a damn good reason for that kind of stability in that area. And then I want to know, okay, so, you know, is it a bunch of cowboys in this area? Is there too much inventory that I'll look at? Is there a lot of solds? Is there a lot of what's on the market? So I'm kind of looking at all that, but ultimately, if I'm outside of a city, I'm going to do up to a quarter mile in the last 6 months are my best comps in the same subdivision, definitely school district. Those are my biggest, you know, if down by the shore here, you know, my on the water, my off the water. Those are some considerations for sure. If I'm inside the city, I'm 1/10 of a mile. I like to be on the block. I like to see a lot of solds. I like to see. I mean, the best thing to see is when you see. You guys all have. Well, you have Bright. You have King. You guys. There's a bunch of different MLSs in Jersey, but Bright has a good one where it has like the number 2 pins when you're inside of Bright. Anybody here use Bright? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Like when you see the number 2 and it shows the cash price it was picked up at, and then the renovated price. It's like a pin on the house. I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you go in, you'll see like if it has a number 2 on it, it means there's 2 comps on one property. It shows you the cash price, and then it shows it renovated, and it shows you the renovated value after it was done. Those are fantastic to, you know, that's showing me that there are flippers in this area aggressively actually buying with cash and then reselling. So those are good things I like to see in an area. I see a lot of those actually. Means an area is improving. So I consider all that when I'm comping. No double, you know, you don't want to cross double yellow lines. That means the figurative and literal double yellow lines. Like you don't want to go from this side that highway to that side of the highway and try to use a comp. That value on that other side of the street, I don't know, but I don't know where I am right now, but I know that's significantly different from this side of the street. So you don't want to be looking at a graveyard. Well, you can now. There's always a value. There's always a value to something. So you know. I have done deals where there's a graveyard across the street, but the value of that house, you know, the house that's not looking at the graveyard is significantly different. And I always say I'm not always right, but I cannot be on the wrong side of wrong. Meaning I'm not going to like hedge my bet and go, yeah, we could probably get that higher number. I'm going to go, we're definitely going to get that lower number and probably less than that. So I'm going to be like 50% of that, you know. So I'm always going to hedge my bet against something like a double yellow line or something like. That's considering, you know, where you are. So ideally, though, you're going to be, you know, in one of those capacities when you're comping. And honestly, I always tell people like, oh, how do you? It's just experience. And if you're just starting out, a really good idea, and man, realtors in this room will kill me for doing this because they're like, people are dragging me all over the place. The 50 house rule is really good. So establish your farm area. Farm areas, by the way, are not as big as people normally think. I learned that lesson in North Jersey when I very first started, which was I said, hey, I'm going to go out and market. Cool. I'm going to mail all of North Jersey and I'm going to get a bunch of phone calls. That did happen. Problem was, all of North Jersey is not a good farm area. It should have been like 1 square mile of North Jersey. So I got a ton of phone calls and a bunch of houses I had no idea what their values were, what the market was. So I just wasted, 10 grand of a marketing campaign when I didn't have 10 grand to spend, 10 years ago. So knowing your farm area is extremely important with where you're going to be, and identify that area. Usually it's way smaller than you think than it has to be. There's a lot of multiple millionaires within that farm area investing, guaranteed. And then do the 50 house rule, which is choose an array of houses in that area that are shells, then choose the lived-in condition, because that's different than the renovated condition, and go to each one of them, understand why they're selling for what they're selling for, what it would take to bring one value up to the next. Do that over 50 houses, and then you'll know how to spot a deal in your farm area, because your experience level, when you go, oh, I just saw 4 houses in this area, in this condition, and this one's selling for $40,000 less, this is a deal. I know I got something here. Your best investors, I learned this early on. I was in Philly and had a guy that, I was wholesaling a house, and he was flipping at the time, in 2008 still, 10 to 15 houses a month in a little area in Philadelphia. And everybody knows who he is. Also, when you get good in your farm area, you become the person, you become the man, or woman. People will just go to you. People are like, you dominate this area. That's the deal. So everybody knew him that way. And I remember calling him up on a wholesale deal, and it was, I was like, hey, I got this great deal and such, and he's like, I'll pay you $65,000 for it. I was like, dude, that's not fair. I was like, you haven't seen it, he goes, you mean one next to the house, and this is in Philadelphia, there's a billion houses in Philadelphia. The one next to the house that had the yellow this and the purple that, and it's got the little burnout in the back. I was like, how do you possibly know that? He's like, dude, I know every house in my farm area. And so I was like, okay, what are you paying for it again? I was like, whatever you want, because I knew that this guy knew his area so well. And then I asked him, I said, how do you know what to pay for this? He's like, there's no chance that I'm spending less than $45,000 on this house and more than $60,000 to renovate. He goes, I've probably done 100 of this specific house the past 3 years. And I'm like, okay, that is a man who knows his market. That's how well you've got to know your market to be at that level. And you don't do it by taking all of South Jersey. You do, like Brian, where do you you are the king of your area.
Wow.
Yeah, bang, Brian will tell you right away, where do I operate? This is where I am. So and he just knows it. I remember talking to Brian one time, he was like, hey, if you ever need help in Wildwood, he's like, you cross this street, you cross that street, you go over that bridge, he just knows his area. And that's through experience. So that's really important to know that when you're establishing a farm area, is don't go bigger than you think you have to.
The suggestion was 50. So
50 house rule.
Check 50 houses.
Yeah, and please don't get your license. Spend 2 weeks to get your license. A realtor, it was such a sin to a realtor to drag them around to 50 houses and not do a deal. And they're gonna come back to me and kill me for suggesting it. So just, but yes, 50 is the.
So what if you don't have 50 houses an hour?
I'd probably go a little bit bigger than 50. Yeah, or spread your farm a little bit. You should have 50 houses for sure. Yeah. If it's that tight, which is good. I'd rather start tight than way too big, because it's overwhelming when it's way too big. Just expand at least till you get that 50 active listings, because 50 active listings will also hopefully mean 50 solds and 15 pendings. So then you got about 115, 120 house circumference that you're dealing with from 50 actives. If you're in an area that doesn't have any solds and you have a ton of inventory, that's an alarm. Be careful. That means the inventory, the pricing hasn't met the demand yet. Meaning those prices that you're seeing, listed, by the way, don't ever send a private funding guy the listings around there. That is not how you do real estate. I can go out and ask anything I want for my car or for my house. That does not mean I'm getting that price, right? So you get what sold. What did somebody put their cash on the table for? So you want to see that sold.
All right, so we're running up against our time.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've got one last question,
Okay.
but I just want to, if anybody else has a question, we can ask it real quick. Does anybody have questions?
I'll hang around. Yeah, it's all good.
All
The
right.
Eagles win the Super Bowl this year?
So I have 2 questions.
Yeah, wait, I'm in South Jersey.
Come on.
I can say this. I'm a Cowboys fan.
How about them Cowboys?
I'm supposed to say, I can run fast. I say it. I saw that today.
All right, so 2 questions. First, one, are you going to share your contact information? Is it easy? Super easy?
Yeah, sure. Ian at hardmoneybankers.com. IAN at hardmoneybankers.com.
All right, awesome. So Ian at hardmoneybankers.com. And so for how many people in here haven't done a deal yet? All right, so we have a room full of people that haven't done a deal. So if they were going to submit, you prefer email is what you said. So if they were going to send Ian at hardmoneybankers.com an email with a deal that they're looking to get funded, what is some of the minimum things that they can, or more maximum things that they should put in their email?
The maximum thing that you should put in your email is address, renovation costs, and how much you're paying. That's the maximum. Minimum is, that's also the minimum.
So how do you, all right, so for example, if they come up with a repair number of $50,000, how are you verifying that $50,000?
Experience, I just know if you're within the ballpark. I'm not gonna bust your chops over 10 grand. You know, maybe it's 60, maybe it's 40, but I'll know if you're way out of line. So I don't.
So you don't need pictures, you don't need a contractor's estimate?
I'll send a guy to verify, like make sure that, hey, you know, to verify that it's there, but I'll know if you're in the ballpark. We're good.
What price per square foot are you using on
Depends on the
that
area.
roughly?
Depends on the area for sure. Yeah. Some areas in Philly are like 250, some areas down here are more than that. Depends on where it is.
So I can tell you from experience, you know, he said some things throughout there that I was nodding my head in agreement. You know, Ian is his company is very easy to work with. It was exactly what he said. I literally probably didn't send you much of anything, and you got on the MLS and you verified it, and next day we were working on the deal. I think we're closing in 5 days is how quickly we did that deal. And then anytime I had a draw, I'd hit you up. You had your guy down there the next day. Literally walked in, was like, making some progress. All right, and walked out. And then called up Ian, was like, cut the check.
Yeah.
So it's really easy. It absolutely is like that mom and pop feel. And he's right. Like maybe you do pay a little bit more for your money, but you get, you know, with that comes a lot of convenience and someone who's going to be a partner with you on the deal to look out for you there. So I thought Ian did a great job. If anybody has any more questions,
Share the
Are you
Facebook
offering me a job?
Oh, here, wait, I got one. Here, if you go to Brian Reed, first become friends with Brian Reed on the video that he's asking to share. If you share it and then email me, I'll give you a Hard Money Bankers hoodie for anybody that doesn't have one.
what?
Yeah,
So I tagged JP in a live video, so the presentation is live.
Good answers, man. That's all I have to
Oh, you mean saying share the video? And then like tag him in the video.
Can we get a hoodie?
Just share it.
Yeah, they're really soft.
Yeah,
too.
it's
They're
good.
I have one last question. Are you hiring? Because I'm a draw specialist.
Draw? In 3 or 4 months, yes.
Watch it, JP.
So if you go to JP's
Yeah, I know.
page,
I know.
Oh, he works for you? I'm not poaching these guys.
No, he doesn't work. I mean, we work together. He doesn't work for me.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
So I will say, and this is verifiable, I'm purchasing one of JP's wholesales, and was curious about whether or not I would need funding because I was closing quickly. I emailed Ian because we have a relationship. We haven't done a deal together, but I sent him everything. And I took the feed, and essentially it was 2 hours. I think.
Yeah.
Hour and a half, 2 hours, like, you know, getting ready. Yeah.
Appreciate it. You guys make it easy. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and give it up for Ian. Yeah, so before we all disperse, I want to try to get a group picture, so if everyone kind of piles in, because I really, as we grow, we're going to be moving